This is a Hope 1032 podcast.
I'm Georgia and welcome to Finding Hope, the podcast to get your day started right. This podcast swaps out the depressing daily news headlines for feel-good stories that won't necessarily make the front page. Each episode, we will meet someone who has a story of hope and perseverance to share, which will hopefully inspire you to look for the good in your own life. Episode 2, Dr. Thomas 2. In a country like Australia, many of us take health for granted. Why wouldn't we? We live somewhere with universal healthcare, an extensive childhood vaccination program, and some of the best medical minds in the world. But sometimes it just isn't enough. Thomas 2 was a regular, healthy 14-year-old when a routine blood test revealed something that would change the trajectory of his entire life. He was diagnosed with Hepatitis B. Almost 2 decades later, Thomas now leads a medical research team trying to find a cure for the very disease that he lives with. This is a story of loneliness, of isolation, of stigma. It's the story of a society who still shuns those who are seen sick or different. But it's also a story of deciding to see the good. The good in situations, the good in people, the good in life. And most of all, this is a story about using that good to pave an easier path for others. This is the story of Dr. Thomas 2. Let's find out about Dr. Thomas 2, and I must warn you, for a guy who hasn't even hit 35 years old, he's pretty impressive.
I lead a research group, as you said before. I'm also president of the Australian Centre of Hepatitis Virology. I'm also on the board of Hepatitis Australia, the peak advocacy body for those living with viral hepatitis. And as you mentioned before, I recently founded and run hepbcommunity.org, which is an online forum for people with hepatitis B, affected by hepatitis B. So those are all the hats that I wear, and I hope that makes me qualified enough to talk about Hep B with you today.
Not only that, Thomas, but you have Hep B yourself,
and I have
as
Hep
I mentioned.
B myself.
Well, since my knowledge of Hep B doesn't go beyond my vaccination record, let's get the rundown from the expert.
So for the most part, hepatitis B infection is asymptomatic, and that is the same for the majority of people until they're 40, 50, 60 years old, and suddenly they're not feeling too well, they have a pain in their side, they go to the doctor and they get diagnosed when it's way too late, when their liver's failing, when they have liver cancer. So it's a really big problem that we have in society. 300 million people around the world have it. 90% of people don't even know they have it. And they won't find out until it's way too late.
So if it is caught early, as it was in your case, what is the treatment plan?
We monitor it for a long time until we get into a sort of danger zone when the body starts to react and you get a lot of liver disease. At that point, we will manage that problem using suppressive drugs that we have. So to knock down the virus, to suppress it. But that doesn't mean the virus is completely gone. As soon as you stop taking that medication, the virus will jump back. Basically, that person is on medication for the rest of their lives.
Basically, Thomas has described the virus equivalent of a whack-a-mole game, except a lot less fun. So I'm thinking that the medication needed to keep a virus at bay for a lifetime would have to be pretty extensive.
It's 1 tablet a day.
Well, I stand corrected.
That has only come around 15 years ago. That's what medical research can do.
Science and medicine certainly has come a long way, but Thomas is living proof that having Hep B wasn't always as simple as taking a tablet. So, Thomas, you were diagnosed almost, 2 decades ago now, 14 years old. I'm guessing you weren't sick at the time. How did you actually find out you had it?
It was through a routine blood test, and that came about because of my family. My family are from Vietnam, which is a high prevalence country in terms of hepatitis B. About 20% of the population have chronic infection with hepatitis B. So this is exactly what we need GPs to do, to find out who's positive in our community so that they can get into clinical care sooner rather than later. And I mean, that's I guess, the theory. That when I got that information, when I was diagnosed, it was a shock and really emotionally upsetting. All I can remember was, crying, being upset. But other than that, I didn't really know what it meant. I wasn't provided with much information. I think I was told that I was supposed to get regular blood tests, but, wasn't reminded or followed up on. That kind of gets pushed to the back of your mind because you don't want to engage in it. I guess there was an unspoken thing in the family where we wouldn't really talk about it because it wasn't causing any problems. And we didn't want to raise it as something that set us apart from the society, the community that had accepted my family as refugees. So after I got a little more information from the internet, I more or less dismissed it and stored that diagnosis in the back of my head because there was stigma associated with this infection.
For so long, Thomas's diagnosis was buried in the shadows, in the back of his mind, out of reach of society's judgmental eyes. So, what changed?
During the time when I was sorting out what I wanted to do for my life, my career, during, end of high school, start of university, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was thinking psychologist, comedian, doctor, but seeing I wasn't very smart in terms of getting the marks for getting into med, and I wasn't very funny, I ended up picking something in the biomedical field because, there's always the opportunity that I could pick up doctoring later. And as I progressed with that, I learned that at my university, at University of Adelaide, there was one of the few active hepatitis B research labs in Australia at that university. And so from second year on, I was focused on getting into that lab to sort of make a difference. I saw that I had the potential to change things. That diagnosis that I got all those years ago came back to the forefront of my mind, along with, the millions of other people that have hepatitis B.
And so Thomas's career began to flourish, but he was still holding on to a secret.
So at this time, when I was doing the research, I still did not publicly announce my status. That was still something that was weighing on me, but it definitely motivated me and also guided my research to stuff that would actually make a difference to someone. This is not an esoteric academic sort of problem that I wanted to solve. This was something that would affect people. And I think that was definitely a motivator. You work pretty hard as a PhD student, but also made me very conscious that I can't be slapdash in the lab. There may be, my family, people I know may be depending on these results, for drugs or new therapies down the track, and it better be good. I mean, people's lives are sort of in your hands.
Sounds like a pretty stressful life, right? I think there's a reason that not too many of us end up getting PhD degrees. But Thomas didn't stop there. He wanted to help the Hep B community even further.
There's not much known in society when you say hepatitis B, apart from you need a vaccination to protect yourself, or sometimes that it's associated with sexually transmitted diseases. So there's a lot of stigma attached to it, even though the majority of people with a chronic infection will have been exposed as children, and that's when they have a chronic infection. So you don't really want to talk about it. What hepbcommunity.org offers is a way for people to talk about having hepatitis B or being affected by hepatitis B.
Okay, pause again. If you have the memory of a goldfish, like I do, just want to remind you of a quick fact. Hepbcommunity.org is a website that Thomas himself created to bring awareness and education to those with hepatitis B, without the stigma. Okay, now you're up to speed again. Back to Thomas.
It's an online forum. People can join with just an email. They don't have to give their real name, so they can anonymously talk about it. And what we do is also include medical experts, clinicians, scientists, advocates as well. When they are getting advice from these particular people, that it comes from an accurate and trustworthy source, which I think is a major hindrance at the moment. If I Google now hepatitis B, I get millions of pages on Google, and, half of them are people trying to sell you supplements that may cure hepatitis B.
Newsflash, they don't. That's actually impossible.
These sort of supplements hurt your wallet. At worst, they can even drive liver damage themselves. So what we're trying to do is make this safe space for people with hepatitis B to get that real information, not only that expert advice, but also the experience from other people who have lived with hepatitis B and finding out how they deal with it.
It's such a fantastic initiative. I've taken a look at this website. It's extremely slick, I must say. It's very well done. You're a medical researcher. You don't work in computing. How did you manage to build this website?
I took one semester of computer science.
Making me feel better about myself by the minute, Thomas.
As a scientist, you're trained to trial and error, take the failures on the chin and learn from them. And that's basically what I've done.
I'm in awe, seriously. Like, you're a medical researcher. You don't have a lot of spare time in your day. So the fact that you have kind of used that spare time to help others is really fantastic. What has been the impact of the forum so far?
We've got about 350 users from across the world. But you see such common themes. People come there and say, this is the first time that I've been able to talk about my hepatitis B status openly. They won't even talk to partners about it because of the stigma involved. We had one person in particular, she was pregnant, and part of the test you get as a pregnant woman is hepatitis B screens, and she found out she was hepatitis B positive, told her partner, and he just ghosted her. I mean, that is terrible from so many perspectives, in terms of now not having the support, but also having that mistrust in people in general, and that mistrust in systems, in people, can have health impacts. If you're not willing to share your status with anyone, even health professionals, then you won't get monitored. You won't get on treatment when you need to be treated, and you'll end up with liver cancer or liver cirrhosis down the track. I mean, 25% of people with chronic hepatitis B who are not treated will die of liver cancer or liver cirrhosis. It's a huge number, and we've really got to be better about this. This is such a complex issue. This stigma exists across the globe, and we really need to address it. That is the main thing that I've seen on the website, and this allows people to sort of reach out and sort of connect to deal with it.
Thomas, I know that, every medical researcher would be stoked to see a cure in their lifetime. Are we close to a cure for Hep B? Can you give us a status update?
I think we have never been closer to a cure. It's amazing the amount of medical research that has been put into it. Around the world, we've got, 50, 60 different ways of attacking the virus now, and we're now seeing the results of some clinical trials of some of these therapies. We've got such a passionate community of scientists looking at this. But what we're finding again and again is that medical research, particularly in viral hepatitis, has been severely underfunded. We're really, fighting with one hand behind our backs. So we really need to, if we really want to see a cure, we need to fund it properly. We've seen that this can happen so quickly if we make it important to us. We've made COVID important to us, and look at the speed of medical research that's been able to find a vaccine less than 2 years before we even knew what COVID was. It's amazing that we can do such things if we make it important. And I'm hoping, always hoping that we do make it important, because it is.
That was the story of Dr. Thomas Tu, a senior researcher of hepatitis B at the Westmead Institute for Medical Research in Sydney. The Hepatitis B Community Forum can be found at hepbcommunity.org, and those details, as well as some other resources for Hep B, can be found in the show notes. If you or someone you know has a story of hope to share and you'd like to be interviewed for this podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment on the Finding Hope page at hopepodcasts.com.au. And if you liked this episode and you'd like to give a rate or review, that would be so appreciated. It helps other people find the podcast, especially in these early days. Next episode, we'll be meeting a former American footballer who was paralysed from the neck down in a tackle gone wrong, but years later managed to walk his wife down the aisle at their wedding. I'm Georgia, and thank you for listening to this episode of Finding Hope. I'll leave you with this. Let all that you do be done in love. 1 Corinthians chapter 16, verse 14. Catch you next time.
This is a Hope 1032 production. Thanks for listening.